How's it going, boys? Johnny Superbman here, and it's time for part 2 of our NHL 14 improvement video where we talked about penalties and the changes that I want to happen to NHL 14. Now, a lot of people agreeing with what I said, a lot of people disagreeing with what I said, so that's why I want to bring you guys this recap video. I want to answer some of your comments that were criticizing my suggestions so we can make this game the best that it possibly can be, okay? So before we start, I just want to say that the main idea in the last video was to unsync game time and power play time because of games taking too long as a result of power plays or penalties, right? That's what I wanted to change. So we left it here in the last video with the positives and the negatives, and the way that I saw it, the positives being no more long games, which would help everybody. You'd remove the majors, which some of you guys disagreed with. I'll get to that in a later stage. Don't worry, don't comment just yet, all right? No time slowing strategy, which I think everyone can agree with. Only one player being punished. A lot of people disagreed with this one. I'll get to that. Longer 4-on-4 and 3v3. I think everybody in general agreed with that. You'd like to see longer 4-on-4 and 3-on-3. And also a more enjoyable game for all, except for the people who disagreed with this system, okay? So that's the way I saw the positives. But I also saw negatives with this system. It's not realistic, and I know there's a lot of people out there who want a realistic hockey simulator, right? So we'll get to that. You miss too much of the game if you take a penalty, right? I don't see that as a negative, but I do understand that some people will. It's confusing to look at with seeing one time going faster than another, and also some people like games that go 45 minutes, and also some people like goon games where they can take penalties, sit in the box for 2 minutes, come right back out, deliver a huge body check, go back in the box and keep doing that for the entire game, taking 10 minor penalties. Some people like that, all right? So here's the positives, here's the negatives, the way that I saw it, but now let's get into some of your comments and some of your agreements and disagreements. So up first, let's talk about body checks, and I think there was a little bit of confusion for some people when I mentioned NHL hits. Cameron the Canuck says, I personally don't agree with Johnny on the 5-minute major thing. I understand it's a video game, but I completely disagreed with that NHL hits quote Johnny said, that it's just a game and he wants reckless hits. Gary LaPlante says, I really disagree with your sentiment about how there should be more big hits. It's one of my least favorite things about the NHL series. The amount of big hits compared to an actual NHL game is absurd. I guess we just fundamentally disagree on where the series should be headed. It's like a game that's more about positioning and stick play than big hits. Connor says, I would rather a realistic game instead of crazy body checks. So let's actually listen to what I said about NHL hits. Have you guys ever heard of the game NHL Hits? That game was all about crazy hits. It may not be realistic, but this is a video game. It's supposed to be fun. I want to see big body checks in this game, all right? I want to see reckless hits. It's a video game. Nobody's actually getting hurt. And I want to see it done without, crazy punishments from 5-minute majors, all right? Player ejections. I mean, all this craziness. So the point I was trying to make about NHL hits was that when you throw a body check, it's sometimes just as fun as scoring a goal. I don't want bigger hits. I don't want Hercules checks every single time. I don't want NHL hit style hits. Keep the exact same hits that are already in NHL 14. I just don't want the current penalty system to be punishing the other 11 players in the game who have to play a marathon game right now. I want people to make their man 6'9", 250 pounds, 99 body checking, and have fun in the OTP lobbies without affecting everyone else. The Kosh123 says, I don't quite understand your point, Johnny. Are you saying that you want to be able to throw dirty-ass hits without consequences? Absolutely not. I have no problem with players sitting in the box when they deserve it. I just don't like how when you take a 5-minute major with the current system, it slows down the game for everyone else. And going back to the beginning of the video, my main priority is to unsync the game time with the power play time. If you do this and you take a 5-minute major and it's not really a bad major, well, guess what? 5 minutes a period, a 5-minute major, you now have to sit out for the entire period. I thought that would be a little bit too harsh. Now, if you guys are okay with that, I'm on board, but I just thought that that would be a little bit too harsh to miss a period because of a shady 5-minute major injury, right? But no, if you're going to throw dirty hits, get in the box for 2 minutes, and with the unsynced game time, you're going to miss about 1/7 of the game, okay? I think that's the better consequence. Instead of being bored, instead of making the game go 45 minutes, the consequence is you missing 1/7 of the game. Next up, I want to talk about realistic hockey. I knew that as soon as I started to propose changes for a future NHL game, I would run into the issue of, well, that change is not realistic. We want realistic hockey. EpicVids8 says, getting rid of 5-minute majors would be unrealistic to hockey. Who cares if the game is slower? Almost Talented says, it is a video game and it doesn't have to be realistic. I can't agree with you in this issue. Personally, I want a game that is as realistic as it can. I can buy a Nintendo Wii if I want games which do not care about being realistic. Burbines1122 and Hawks fan Taves also agree with this argument. So, I want to play devil's advocate here for 1 second for these guys and for anyone else who agrees with the realistic argument, okay? So, I just want to ask you some questions and just answer them yes or no in your own head. You know, if you want a realistic hockey simulation game, do you want 20-minute periods? Do you want a 60-minute game? Do you want 15-minute intermissions? Do you want TV timeouts every period? Do you want the glass breaking from shots and body checks, which only stop the play? Do you want the net coming off every time it's touched, which also stops the play? Do you want the ref delaying the game to make sure that he has to fix the ice, which would slow down the game? All right? I know these are stupid questions. Obviously, nobody would want a 15-minute intermission or a TV timeout where you'd actually have to watch advertisements. But my point is, we already all make sacrifices in our own minds in which, you know, there's certain things that we want in the game that are simulation, but also certain things that are okay being arcade. So I'm just taking it to the next level. No one wants a full-on 100% hockey simulation game. If you do, and you want everything that I listed right there, I mean, I respect your opinion, but I couldn't disagree more. Now, when I made the statement about not needing a 100% hockey simulation game, I think that shocked some people into making some crazy comments. So I'll clean it up a little bit just so you guys can understand exactly where I'm coming from. You know, in my General Zod series and my Hockey Ultimate team, I always complain about the game not being realistic enough, and I stand by that. I do want a great hockey simulator, but I want the core gameplay to be realistic. The shots, the saves, the hits, the way you skate up the ice, and most importantly, the way the computer AI plays the game of hockey. But what we're talking about right here is not the core gameplay, it's the icing on the cake, how long the periods are, whether or not glass should be breaking or the net should be coming off, right? Whether or not elbowing calls or stick lifting calls should be in the game. This is not about the actual gameplay. I want realistic gameplay, but I also want the game to be enjoyable and functional in the online lobbies. And this suggestion that I'm coming up with is for EASHL. It's not for offline. It's not for 1v1 versus or Hockey Ultimate Team. This is for EASHL. So again, I'll state it one more time. I want a great realistic hockey game, yes, but I also want the game to be fun and enjoyable for all. Alright? So you have to find the perfect balance. The best of simulation and the best of arcade. Next up, I want to talk about 5-minute majors, but I want to talk about them in my system. Imagine we've already gone ahead with the unsynced power play time from the regular time. We're not talking about the 5-minute majors in the system that we already use, alright? We've already unsynced the time. So Nathan Dunville says, 5-minute majors need to stay, because it costs the dumbass goons that run around. You're cheap, you get lit up. Okay, Nathan, I agree with that, right? But with the current system that we have, when you get a 5-minute major, it slows down the time for everyone else. Now, if we unsync the time and you guys want to keep 5-minute majors in there, you're going to miss the entire period. Now, I'm actually okay with this. I just thought that everybody else wouldn't like that. But if you guys, you know, say we unsync the time and you guys, somebody takes a reckless body check on somebody, they get the 5-minute major, are you okay with them sitting out an entire period? It wouldn't be longer because the game time would consistently go, but you would sit out the entire period. I'm okay with it, right? But we're going to have to see what you guys say. Justin says, I also disagree that it bores the player by staying in the box because they deserve to be punished and be bored sitting in the box. I agree with this, right? But say you take the 5-minute major in the current system that we have. Say you take the 5-minute major, right? And it's a penalty where it didn't necessarily need to be a major, and also somebody then fights you. Well, all of a sudden you're bored in the box for more than, 10 minutes just because you threw a semi-questionable hit, you know? I agree if you take a body check, you should sit in the box, right? But I don't like how the game sometimes decides what's a major, what's a penalty, and you're the one who's being punished for it, all right? But Magistras, he sees my idea. He says this is a pretty good idea. The person who is penalized misses more of the game and no one else is affected except that player. Exactly, all right? Exactly. And with my changes in the last video that I said where, the slashing penalties and the elbowing penalties need to be taken out. Now, if you add that in with all that, you're not going to be taking any penalties unless you're at fault. You see what I mean? The game's not going to be giving you any stupid penalties. So it does suck that you have to miss 1/7 of the game, but if you take a penalty under this new system, it is your fault. Borrow HD says, why would you want to take out major penalties? That would just be stupid. I would rather than make the discipline stat more convenient. If you have a high discipline rating, the less elbows you are going to throw, the less likely you are to slash down on someone's stick, the less likely you are to throw your stick in between someone's skates. And there's a lot of people that agree with Borrow HD. But you know what? I'm going to have to disagree with you guys because I feel like the discipline stat should be used for computer AI. In EASHL, when you're controlling one player the entire game, everyone already has their own discipline built in. For example, I'm a defenseman. On my club team, my right winger Kryptonite, he's got like triple the amount of penalties that I do. Why? Is because his discipline is a lot worse than my discipline. I don't like taking penalties, so I don't run. I don't run the body. I don't poke check people from behind. I don't stick lift in stupid spots. I have good discipline. So that's my point. I think that in EASHL, everyone already has their own discipline rating built in. I don't like the game telling me, oh, it's elbowing time. Oh, it's slashing time. Oh, it's injury time, which means it's 5-minute major time. All right. In EASHL, the player has to have full control over his player. All right. And that's the way I feel about it. So I disagree with that discipline stat statement. Now, when I was combing through the comments to make this video, I actually saw some really good suggestions. One from Superkiller. In NHL 14 EASHL, when you're in the box, you should have the option to press select so you can see the action instead of looking from inside the box. Amen, brother. Stephen Lord says, a better way to explain and do the unsync time as you suggested would be when I say 5-minute periods, the period on the screen should start from 5 and go down real time. Oh my God, brilliant, right? I actually did kind of think of this. I think this is how they did it in NHL 94, Steven. But you're going to get the same thing that I ran into. The realistic argument, How many people out there, after reading that statement, are thinking to themselves, oh, that's stupid. I don't want to see the periods counting down from only 5 minutes. I want to see it going fast from 20 minutes. Because that's more realistic, right? Steven, I agree with this. I would do it this way rather than my way. Because this solves the confusion out of it, because now the times would sync up and everything would look a lot better, but the realistic argument is definitely going to pop up. All right, so great idea there, Steven. Great idea. All right, so there you go, boys. There is part 2 of our NHL 14 improvement video. I hope I answered the questions and the concerns that you guys had in the last video. Again, are my fixes perfect? Absolutely not. But what we have right now is a major problem with the game length as a result of the penalties. This is my proposal on how we fix it. Do you guys have other suggestions? Let me know. Get it out there, man. Get the developers of EA watching your videos so that we can get these fixed, because this is the only way we're going to be able to get our voices heard. All right, boys? So go nuts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.